Thank you, Dr. Sridhar, for the nice introduction. And I hope everyone will be joining in the session. And good afternoon, everyone. Today, I am going to explain you about hypersonic vehicles and basically about classifications of hypersonic vehicle and other parameters also. Okay. And as Sir introduced myself, I am Purma Kishan. I am working right now in Assistant Professor Aerospace Department, Chandigarh University. So first of all, I would like to thank to Aerospace Department, Amity University, as well as a special thanks to Professor Prahad Jintal for inviting me. And in this throughout lecture, I have used the reference of Ernest Henry Skersel. It is a book titled Selected Aerothermodynamic Design Problems of Hypersonic Vehicle. So I would like to thank for Springfield Publication and Ernest Henry Skersel. This is one of the wonderful book where you can find the hypersonic problem also. Okay, so I have used images and contents which was present in this book and other internet media also. So let's start into the session. First, I want to give the overview of the entire session. Since we are having a 40-minute schedule, I will be explaining about the basic fundamentals as well as some aerodynamic properties and vehicle design configurations. I will not be entering into the mathematical concepts since it will take more time. So overall, I will be giving the vehicle design configuration. Okay. So why hypersonic vehicle we have to use? Vehicle design configurations, challenges which we are facing when we are designing an hypersonic vehicle, and also the future applications of hypersonic vehicle we will be discussing in this session. So classification of flow. Being an aerospace engineer, so the students will be very much aware that what are the type of flows depending upon Mach number which we are classifying. So subsonic flow, Mach less than 1. Transonic flow, it is in between subsonic and supersonic. So we will be having a range of 0.8 to 1.2 Mach will be known as transonic flow. Sonic flow is M is equal to 1 and supersonic M is greater than 1 and hypersonic M is greater than 5. That's what the same Mach number is defined as object speed or vehicle speed divided by speed of sound. So depending upon that, we are classifying the hypersonic vehicle. Okay. So as we have said, the application of hypersonic vehicle will be used in as an aircraft, missiles, as well as in spacecraft vehicles. So what are the types of engines we are using? Turbojet, ramjet, and scramjet, also rocket engines. So turbojet and ramjet, we all know that turbojet will be used in for supersonic speed. So the ramjet and turbojet combination of turbo ramjet will be used in hypersonic vehicle. So the challenges to the hypersonic vehicle is, first of all, the aerodynamic heating. When we are flying at Mach greater than 5, right? So the structures and the avionics also also need to withstand the heating thermal effect over the structural of the entire vehicle or spacecraft, whatever it was. So and maneuverability. So in this lecture also we will be speaking about stability and trim conditions, as well as we will be looking into the aerothermodynamic heating also. So materials, because when there is a heating, the material should not corrode or it should not melt. So which will be affecting the avionics as well as the internal structural components. So the materials which we are going to use for hypersonic, it has to be very much specialized and also advanced materials. And also, of course, we need to make that in a lightweight manner so that every component can be withstand the heating effect also. So when we are speaking about hypersonic vehicles, there are three basic reference classes. One is with wing re-entry vehicles, and second one is air breathing cruise and acceleration vehicle. Third one is non-wing re-entry vehicles or spacecraft. So this is a general reference wherever in whichever book you are to learn or whichever article you want to read, right? So read about hypersonic vehicle, you have to identify these are the terms they will be using: wing re-entry vehicles, air breathing cruise and acceleration vehicle, and non-wing re-entry vehicles or space capsules. So I will explain what are the step by step. I will explain each and every classification so that you will get an idea. So apart from the three classification, there is one another classification is left over, which is called as ascent and re-entry vehicle, ARV. They will be calling it as ARV. Okay. So ARV is basically a single stage to orbit. Single stage to orbit is nothing but if you see the rocket with space shuttle orbiter, like NASA's Columbia or Discovery or Atlantis, they will be having a two stage to the orbit. Okay. So SSTO means single stage to the orbit, where TSTO means two stage to the orbit. Okay. Yes. So ascent and re-entry vehicle. So a single stage vehicle reaches orbit from the surface of the body using only propellants and fluids without expanding tanks or engines or other major hardware. Okay. So there is a space plane which was under construction by Boeing and other aerospace leading organizations. So I will be showing a video what is the Venturi star and how it will be coming under the classification of ascent and re-entry vehicle. So I'm just stopping this share and I will take the video over there.
Yes, visible, sir. Go ahead.
So this is a example of a Venturi star. This is still under development. This is not yet developed. It is in under various testing phase and design considerations and various step-by-step process is undergoing on this. So this is an animated video of how an ARV vehicle that is a single stage to orbit will work. So I'm running like I will skipping some parts so that we won't waste much time in looking all those videos. So if you see the configuration, it won't be having any external rocket engines or external boosters which we will be having already in rockets which was launching space shuttle orbiters. It will be directly lifted off from the Earth atmosphere, Earth surface. And if you see over here, this is the ISS, International Space Station, and our Venturi star is over here. Venturi space plane is over here, which is revolving around the same orbit. So where our main purpose of Venturi star is to transmit like passengers. It is for future space tourism also, as well as they are using to transmit scientists to ISS or astronauts to train in ISS. Okay, so they will be having this type of concept in future. So where it will be revolving around the Earth in a same orbit, and it will be docked to the International Space Station. And also after like docking, either if we are sending astronauts or we want to get back the astronauts from International Space Station, this ARV will be very much useful because it can re-enter into Earth atmosphere. They are designing in such a way that this Venturi star space plane will be used to take off from the Earth atmosphere and it will be re-entered into Earth atmosphere. Whereas in space shuttles, it can be done, the liftoff will be done using rocket boosters, external boosters, where the space orbiter will be only going into the outer atmosphere and it will be performing its activities and it will be coming into back to the so why we are not including this ARV is in the main reference classes we are not including this ARV because it is a combination of cruise and acceleration vehicle and acting as a space shuttle orbiter. Cruise and acceleration vehicle is nothing but a hypersonic aircraft which is going to fly in the atmosphere only, in the Earth atmosphere only. Whereas ARV, that is re-entry vehicle, it will be acting like a aircraft in the Earth atmosphere, and when it is going outer space and when it is coming to back to Earth, it will be acting as a re-entry vehicle. Okay, so it is having a combination of cruise and acceleration vehicle. So we will be studying about cruise and acceleration vehicle, and in the orbiter case, we will be studying it in the winged re-entry vehicles. So that's why we are not including the ARV vehicles under the main reference. Okay, so coming into the winged re-entry vehicles. So as I told earlier, Space Shuttle Orbiter is one of the example which is having a wing, right? So non-wing configuration is nothing but it is a space capsule. Okay, Soyuz is one of the example for non-wing re-entry vehicles. Space Shuttle Orbiter is one of the example for winged re-entry orbiters, and other spacecrafts also there. Hermes, HOPEX, X-34. These are all still under development, and some have been developed and they have dropped due to some other financial and other political issues. Also, they have dropped the plan. In India, also we are having RLV, which will be very much similar to Hermes. I will be showing the video when the slide will be coming. So the re-entry vehicles with winged configuration will be classified under the category of two-stage to orbit, whereas ARV will be in the single stage to the orbit, where RBW will be in TSTO, two-stage to orbit, where the first stage will be the rocket boosters and the second stage will be the space shuttle orbit. Okay, that's why we are calling it as two-stage to orbit. So these are the examples for re-entry vehicle with winged configuration: Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Atlantis, Endeavour. Many of them will know about Columbia because Kalpana Chawla has flown in that. And another one model is Hermes. So this is French Center National. They have developed it, and later when European Space Agency was formed, they have merged and they have started to work on that. But in 1992, the Hermes was cancelled because they thought that it will be unachievable cost and performance goals cannot be achieved over here. But in case of RLV, if you see that it will be similar to the Hermes vehicle only. So I will be showing the video how the Hermes spacecraft will be working. As we don't have time, I'm just skipping little bit parts and I'm only explaining the major parts only. So if you see here, this is also a two-stage to orbit only, where rocket boosters will be used, external tanks will be used, and the spacecraft will be mounted in the top of the nose section of the rocket boosters. So where this will be the same case they have used in RLV also. So if you see the video how it will be working, it will be launched from the Earth and it will be getting separated at particular altitude. Most probably it will be around 100 kilometers. The same process it will be also done, and it can be used for other purposes also. Whereas if the satellite is not working and it is revolving in the orbit or any other space debris, this type of Hermes can be used to recollect the debris which was already in the revolving around the Earth atmosphere. Whereas the expired satellites which was revolving around the Earth orbit, it will be capturing the satellites and it can be used to destroy in the atmosphere itself. So due to that, if we are reaching to the Earth atmosphere and when we are separating the unused satellite due to the atmospheric aerothermodynamic heating, the spacecraft will be destroyed in the atmosphere itself, and we can land the Hermes back to the Earth. So that is the one of the advantage, and they have planned the mission for removing the space debris from revolving in the Earth atmosphere, around the Earth atmosphere, and it will be land as like an spacecraft aircraft itself. So the next classification is cruise and acceleration vehicle. So cruise and acceleration vehicle is nothing but an hypersonic aircraft, right? So in this case also, we can use the same type of hypersonic aircraft to launch the orbiters. Like this is also a two-stage to orbit, where we will be calling this type of space plane or aircraft, we will be calling it as Sanger. So if you see here, Sanger is the entire aircraft, but we will be having a orbiter. Okay, so this is the single stage, and this is the first stage, and this is the second stage, where the Sanger will be used to take off from the Earth sea level, right? And like an aircraft, it will be having a horizontal and horizontal takeoff and landing, and at particular height altitude, like near about 40 kilometer altitude, the separation will be done depending upon the speed also, the vehicle speed. So this Sanger aircraft is also under the development. It is not yet developed fully, and for ramjet by using the ramjet propulsion, the Sanger can attain up to a Mach number of 7. Whereas if you are using a scramjet, we can achieve an speed of 12. Okay, so this can be also used for space. The third category is non-winged re-entry vehicles. So the capsules, probes, and whatever we are having, whichever we are having without, we will be calling it as non-winged re-entry vehicles. Okay, so some of the examples are Huygens, Beagle 2, Oryx, Apollo. So here in this picture you are seeing Huygens, which is used to land in Titan, moon of Saturn. Okay, so this is one of the example over there. I will explain each and every category and classes, how the design consideration is there in next slides. So there is a video for this classification of that non-wing re-entry vehicle. I will be showing that.
Insight will have only 6 minutes to slow down and land safely.
This is an animated video for Mars, when they are explaining about how the re-entry or entry into the Mars atmosphere. Okay, so this is a probe which they are sending to Mars. So you can watch the video. It is a non-wing
1,000 miles per hour,
re-entry
carrying
vehicle.
more mass than the previous Phoenix landing. Insight is also scheduled to land at a higher elevation, known for severe dust storms. All these entry, descent, and landing challenges.
And so what we do is I'm just going to get how many G's with the design. After Insight, we'll launch.
So I will be explaining each and every design concepts of non-wing and wing, and as well as CAV vehicle in upcoming slides. So some of the other examples are Saturn, Apollo, which we have used for moon mission also, and many other space probes also still under development. So comparison of 3 reference classes. So comparison will be done with respect to parameters, various parameters. First one is Mach number. So here we are using 30 to 0 because when we are considering re-entry, the re-entry vehicle with winged configuration will be having a highest Mach number up to 30 when it is re-entering into the Earth atmosphere due to the gravitational force. So obviously it is going to, it will be gliding and it will be going to land in the runway and it will be stopping. So that's why the Mach number range they are given with 30 to 0. Whereas in case of CAV, it is acting as an aircraft. So when we are using ramjet, it will be having 7, and when we are using scramjet, it will be having a 12 Mach number. Same in case of re-entry vehicle with non-winged configuration, 30 as well as 0. So both re-entry vehicle with winged configuration and non-winged configuration will be 30 to 0. So configuration, that is shape of the vehicle. It has to be blunted for re-entry vehicle with winged configuration, slender for CAV, that is cruise and acceleration vehicle, and re-entry vehicle with non-wing configuration, it has to be very blunt. Blunt means like it is a curved shape. Okay, so I will be explaining in future slides also why it was blunt, why it was slender, why it was very blunt. I will explain in future slides also. So the flight time, it is very short because re-entry vehicle with wing configuration, it will take a minimum like maximum of 15 minutes from re-enter atmospheric to here. Some space probes like they will be using to land in Mars, it will be having a minimum of 8 minutes only from re-entry atmospheric altitude to reach its surface. And so, but in case of CAV, since it is going to act as an aircraft, we have to expect the endurance should be high. CAV vehicle, the endurance should be high. That's why we are mentioning it as a non. So angle of attack for re-entry vehicle with wing configuration, it should be large, and for CAV, it has to be small. Whereas in case of non-wing configuration, it has to be head-on. Why it was like that? That I will be explaining in upcoming slides. Why it was large for re-entry vehicle with wing configuration and why it is necessary. Of course, CAV is going to act as an aircraft, right? So in case of aircraft, we expect small angle of attack so that we can have a small drag. Okay. So remaining I will explain in upcoming slides also. So the drag will be large over due to the blender shape. We will be having a large drag, and in case of CAV, we need to have small drag because we are going to make it as a cruise and acceleration vehicle, right? And the re-entry vehicle with non-wing configuration, it is also going to be large. So the lift to drag ratio, already we know that CL by CD or L by D, we will be calling it as aerodynamic efficiency, right? So it has to be small in case of re-entry vehicle with wing condition because we are having large drag, because L by D, when we are having large drag, of course the aerodynamic efficiency will be very much small. And in case of re-entry vehicle with non-wing configuration, they are classified into two categories. One is lifting and another one is non-lifting. So in non-lifting case, L is equal to 0. So aerodynamic efficiency will be also becoming 0. Okay. So the flow field, most probably that re-entry vehicle will be coming under the compressibility effect. Okay, since the speed is decreasing, right? So the compressibility effects will be having a major role over here. But in case of cruise and acceleration vehicle, viscosity effect will be dominated, and same over in the re-entry vehicle non-wing configuration. So thermal surface with respect to viscous, thermal effect with respect to viscous, very important in CAV, whereas thermochemical reaction it is very important in re-entry vehicle with wing configuration. Okay, so I will explain all those factors, why those angle of attack is large and other factors also in upcoming slides. So coming into the design consideration, if you see the delta wing, right? This is a delta wing where you already know about what is wave drag and other factors also. So at hypersonic flight Mach numbers, the slenderness ratio, that is half span divided by length of the fuselage ratio of the swept wings of CAV and ARV, that is ascent and re-entry vehicle, cruise and acceleration vehicle, should be less than 0.3. Okay, so for hypersonic vehicle, the slenderness ratio will be near should be less than 0.3. Okay, so this is one of the delta wing configuration. We'll be calling it as double delta. Okay, or sometimes they will be saying that OG wing. Okay, so if the slenderness ratio is not maintained, right, at lower speed, we will be having insufficient to maintain the stability. So it is very much important to make sure that the slenderness ratio should be less than 0.3 so that we can attain low speed properties are improved by flat wings, that is double delta. So when we are speaking about cruise and acceleration vehicle, right? So there is a problem still. Many people are trying to find the solution over that, whereas we don't have proper simulation facilities, ground simulation facilities. We don't have, and it is a lagging. It is a lagging where you can also do research in particular, finding some interdisciplinary projects, collaborating with CSE department to find out better simulation tools, mathematical department to find out numerical formulas to determine some existing problems. Because where in case of subsonic aircrafts, we will be speaking about aerodynamic problems, but in case of hypersonic re-entry vehicles, we will be speaking about aerothermodynamic problem. Aerodynamics plus thermodynamic problem. Okay, so the new tools has to come up. Okay, so this is a simple overall configuration of CAV where the entire section from nose to inlet of the engine. This is where the engine will be placed. Combustor inlet will be called as forebody. This is for CAV vehicle only. Okay, so please kindly note that forebody to combustor inlet will be called as forebody. Sorry, nose to combustor inlet will be called as forebody inlet. They will be using this term as inlet. Okay, why they are using the main purpose of inlet or diffuser, which we have in turbojet, right? It is want to increase the pressure, right? The inlet, the main duty of inlet is to increase the pressure by decreasing the velocity. Okay, so the combination of the structure, the entire fuselage structure, right, it has to act as an inlet. Okay, so that's why they are when we are speaking about hypersonic vehicle, we'll be saying that it is having a problem of not only aerothermodynamic, it is having a structural design problem also. Okay, so that you have to concentrate on three factors: thermal, structure, as well as fluid. Okay, TSF, thermal, structure, fluid, or sometimes they will be saying fluid structure interaction, like that. So you have to understand how the forebody is going to be get configured in CAV vehicle. As well as I have already told, if you are using ramjet, we will be having, we can attain up to Mach 7. If you are using scramjet, we can attain up to Mach number 12. So one of the important parameter is for hypersonic, like combustor is there, right? But we have to attain some particular speed to make the inlet in a supersonic speed that you might have learned in the supersonic aerodynamics also. So I will be showing a video how the turbo ramjet combination has been done. It is like a confidential process only, but there was an animation video which I have found interestingly in YouTube, and I will be showing that so that you can understand how the turbo ramjet combination will work in hypersonic vehicles. Okay.
A Chinese aviation news organization published an article showing designs for a turbo ramjet engine, which was quickly pulled as apparently these design schematics were not meant to be public, or at least that's what China wants us to think. That's global political PR for you. Here's how the design works based off the schematics they leaked. As you can see, this basically looks like a regular turbojet engine with a big spike on the front. In turbojet mode, air flows around the spike and through the wide inlet that directs air into the turbojet combustor and generally works as normal. But once it achieves roughly Mach 2 speeds, it transforms into a ramjet engine with some pretty simple but clever redirectors of airflow. These air intake ramps on the spike open up and block most of the airflow, forcing it to enter at higher pressure as I described earlier. At the same time, these little doors drop down and block off the turbojet core. And suddenly, it's a ramjet engine, flying with no combustor or turbine, the only moving parts being the fuel injection happening at the rear. Of course, this is a ramjet design, so it's not enough to go hypersonic, so we're safe from hypersonic Chinese missiles and bomber planes, right? Well, actually, the same...
Hope you might have seen that. And this is one of the technique. I'm not saying that this is what they are doing in a hypersonic vehicle. This is one of the interesting fact. They are changing from turbojet mode to ramjet mode. Okay. So I'm coming to the slides again. So one of the engine nozzle which they are using, they are considering for hypersonic cruise and acceleration vehicle is single expansion ram nozzle, or they will be calling it as SIN. Single expansion ram nozzle. Ram is nothing but it is inclined at a particular angle. A structure which is inclined at a particular angle, they are calling it as a ram. So it is a single ram. From here to here, it is only a single ram. So they are using the term called single expansion ram nozzle. Why they are using this single ram expansion nozzle? It will be very much helpful not only to achieve the thrust which is required for hypersonic speed, but it will be also used for maintain the stability of the vehicle. So I will be explaining how it is going to work in the stability condition. So if you see the structural shape consideration for Mach number 3, that is supersonic speed, the vehicle wing shape will be over here, whereas this nozzle area, right? Only I'm speaking about nozzle area, exit nozzle area, right? So here, if this is the engine, the nozzle area will be over here. For Mach 6, the nozzle area will be this much area is required for Mach 6. That is, if you are using ramjet. If you are using scramjet, we will be recording more. Here some interesting factor where the red color indicates that it will be used, the structure shape CAV vehicle. In CAV vehicle, the red color indicates that it will be used for propulsion, whereas the gray color indicates that it will be used for aerodynamics. Aerodynamics means nothing but that to maintain the stability of the vehicle, whereas this red color region, if you see that this is nose, means the under like lower body will be entirely used for propulsion because it is going to act as an inlet. Right. So why the shape of the vehicle, like forebody section, is very much needed, and why they are using Zen nozzle? I have told Zen nozzle will be used for not only to achieve the thrust, it will be used to maintain the stability also. So here you have to understand if this is the fuselage body of a hypersonic vehicle, right? So here you can see the Zen nozzle, right? And this is our combustor, and this is where our engine inlet will be there, and from this is our nose section. So here we will be having a ramp 1, ramp 2, ramp 3. It will be deflected at particular angle. Each ram will be deflected at particular angle. I think you might have you may able to see that perfectly, but kindly understand that each and every angle will be varying from nose to inlet. Okay. So the interesting fact over here also we have given parameters how the ram 2 is having with the length as well as inclination angle also we have given. So kindly go through that, and due to time constraint, I am just explaining what is happening in the vehicle. I am not explaining the factors and other parameters also. So here is an interesting factor, whereas the X meter, that is from 0 to 40, that is the overall length of the Sanger vehicle. So whatever we are seeing in this picture, it is referred with the Sanger CAV vehicle. Okay. So this is the distance from nose to tail, 0 to 40 meter. The length of the fuselage is 40 meter. So they have given in the x-axis, and moments generated, it is given in kilonewton meter in the y-axis. So 0 is over here, and positive, negative, that is clockwise and anti-clockwise movement is given over there. So let's see what is happening in the Sanger vehicle and why the aerothermodynamic structure and propulsion is integrated in the CAV vehicle. Okay. So if you see the ramp 1, so if the vehicle is flying at here they have mentioned Mach 12. They have taken and they have given the graph according to the Mach 12 configuration with an angle of attack 5 degree at an altitude of 36.8 kilometers. Okay. So what is happening actually in ramp 1, right? When we are flying at Mach 12 speed, think about the moment generator. Suppose if this is the I think you can able to see over here. Suppose this is an structure body, and this is one ram, and another ram is deflected like this, and another ram is deflected at particular angle, right? So if the one ram is there, and I'm hitting that airflow is hitting over here, and it will generate a movement, right? It will be generating a movement for the vehicle. So that movement is correspondingly given with nose up. That is, in aeronautical terms, we will be calling it as pitch up, right? So the movement generated with respect to ram 1. Okay, so here they have represented with the black circular dot. The ram 1 is around 5,000 kilonewton meter. It is near about 6,500 kilonewton meter. So the movement generated by the single first ram is 6,500 kilometer. Think about how much kilonewton meter. Okay, so think about how much movement it is generated, so that the vehicle will be moving in such a speed and it will be getting deflected suddenly, right? So think about the stability. How if it is going pitching up at a high range, how we can maintain the stability, right? So that's why we are very much interested. Like you have to concentrate particularly on this graph to understand the movement concept. Okay. So coming into the second factor is our ram 2. So in the structure, I have already told the ram 1 is deflected at one angle and ram 2 is deflected at more angle when we are comparing the reference line. Okay. So when we are having particular angle, already the initial ram 1 is there, then we are having ram 2, right? So ram 1 itself, it is generated more pitch up movement, right? But ram 2 is deflected at higher angle comparing to the ram 1, and also the distance. The distance factor also has to be considered in this case. So the ram 2 will be generating movement, but it will be very much less comparing to the ram 1, because the ram 1 length will be more, ram 2 length will be less, and also it is having higher angle. So you just think in the way when we are having a higher angle, right? So when the flow is hitting, right? Already we are having a ramp which is having a larger distance, like larger length also. It will be also generating a movement, but it will be lesser than the ram 1 configuration. Okay, so correspondingly ram 3, again ram 3 is having more deflection angle, right? And it is also having very less length, so that when the force is trying to hit at the third ram, the movement generated due to ram 3, it will be coming near about 0. Okay. So other factors are cowl lip, that will be also near to the inlet. So over here, cowl lip, right? So that will be also generating a 0 moment. You can consider the vehicle. You just think by yourself how it is going in a Mach 12 and how the shapes will be acting and how the pitching moment will be acting. Okay. So coming into the other factor, inlet, right? So inlet is producing a anti-clockwise moment in order to maintain the stability of the vehicle, right? So the inlet will be designed in a such a way that it will be providing. This is our inlet, right? Which is nearly a perpendicular, right? 90-degree perpendicular way. So if the vehicle is pitching up, right, and our inlet is acting like this, the entire hypersonic vehicle which is flying at Mach 12, if it is deflected, and our inlet will be like this, right? So when the force is hitting over in this lateral or normal surface, it will generate a movement, right? That movement will try to make the vehicle to come back to the original position, or we can call it as a trimming, trying to make the vehicle to trim. The inlet will be designed in a such a way that it will be producing more anti-clockwise movement. Okay. So the same way when we are speaking about ram Zen nozzle, right? So I have shown that image also. If you see the expansion over here, when at the high speed, right? When at the high speed after the nozzle, if it is hitting the ram, if it is hitting the ram, that is, you consider this is the nozzle exit, right? And I'm having a ram like this, right? So if the force is hitting over here, my vehicle will be flying over here, and it is already in pitch of movement, right? Due to the ram one, it is already in the pitch of movement. So when the ram nozzle is over here and it is hitting the external like exhaust gases is going to hit over the ram, it will make the vehicle to come back to the original position. So this type of stability and vehicle design is still they are having so many problems also when they are trying to find out the computational analysis and other factors. They are still under development only. This is one of the perfect explanation which they are going to implement in future hypersonic vehicle also. Okay, I hope you will be understood that. If you are not able to understand that, we will be speak in the session also particularly. So how much time I am having? Okay, I will continue the session, no issue. So in case of particular trends, if you see the shape of the vehicle, I have already told the Sanger is having like 80 meter, and the Space Shuttle Orbiter is having a 40 meter, and Hermes is having a fuselage length of 20 meter. And lift generation, when we are speaking about lift generation in re-entry vehicle with wing configuration, right? So it will be nearly turning to vacuum. The upper surface, that is, we will be calling it as leeward. Okay. So the lower surface we will be calling it as windward, and the upper surface we will be calling it as leeward side. So the high pressure will be at the lower windward side, and the top surface will be having low pressure, right? So that it will be having as like an aircraft, but in case of leeward side, it will be tends to 0. The pressure will tends to 0. That's why we will be calling it as vacuum. And I'm not going into the mathematical concept right now since we are running out of time. I will be have to explain about other factors also. So in case of Space Shuttle Orbiter, we will be using wing strake as well as strake is nothing but where we can usually see in aircrafts like fighter aircrafts, we will be seeing no strake. When the strake is attached with the wing, we will be calling it as wing strake, and when it is under the at the tail of the vehicle, we will be calling it as ventral strake. Okay, so the same type of strake is extended in the Space Shuttle Orbiter. So if you see over here, this is a wing strake. Okay, so there will be a particular angle for a wing strake also. So this is a geometrical data which we are having for the Space Shuttle Orbiter. The length will be 32.774 meter, and reference area, right? If we are calculating the windward side, we will be having a 250 around a meter square, and the wingspan will be 23.79 meter. So the sweep angle will be 45 degree, but whereas the strake angle will be 81 degree. Okay, because it is having a larger strake. Okay, Right. So the center of gravity position will be around 0.65 of the length. So if you multiply by the length, you can find the CG position. Or like the same for Hermes, Copex, and X-34 for other spacecraft also. So the space orbital will be, as I told earlier, it is a two-stage to the orbit vehicle, and external tank will be used, and our orbiter will be revolving into the atmosphere space and doing the maneuverability, and it will be attaining that mission also. So this is the general space shuttle orbiter phase, where it will be. It is from NASA. I have taken from NASA actually. So lift off from Kennedy Space Center. So at a time of 2 minutes, it will be attaining to the elevation of 50 kilometers. But in 2 minutes, it will be attaining at the 50-kilometer altitude, and the solid rocket booster separation will be happening. And at 8 minutes, right, it will be attaining at 117 kilometers. That is near about where they will be separating the space shuttle orbiter, and the external tank will be impacted in the Indian Ocean. Okay, so this is where the SpaceX is working, where they are not impacting in the ocean, they are landing these boosters. Okay, so the space orbiter will be performing its application, whatever it was, whether it was going to ISS or if you want to test, it will be performing that, and it will be coming back to the Earth, and it will be the re-entry interface will be around 122 kilometers, and it will be landing in the sea level airport near like they didn't specify in which airport they will be landing, but they are having, particularly NASA is developed for landing for spacecraft especially. So in case of testing, of course we will be doing the internal testing and other
Yes, sir. Actually, the time is getting up. Can you please?
Yes, sir. I will conclude that. Thank you, sir. So using wind tunnel, we will be testing over here. So in case of space shuttle orbiter, we will be having forward control thrusters or reaction control thrust. I am skipping this image, and I will be showing over here. There will be 16 jets will be placed in the nose section, as well as there will be 14 jets will be placed in the rear world, that is near to the engine. They will be having 14 in the right as well as 14 in the left. The reaction control jets will be used in the during the orbital maneuvering. They will be controlled by the reaction control thrust. Okay, so the pitching, rolling movement, everything can be controlled with the reaction control thrust in the outer space atmosphere. So other factors are same, like you might have studied in the flight dynamics, right? So there will be aerodynamic forces will be acting, and we have to trim that vehicle. So here we will be having a control surface. LE1 we will be having combination of elevator and aileron, and also there will be a body flap which will be kept under the wing engine section, right? So I have given a special lecture about the control systems and other factors in our official YouTube channel also. So if you are interested, you can watch over there. So this is an orbiter boom sensor which is used after the Columbia incidents. When during re-entry, there will be a sensor over here. It will be sensing all the structure over the wing and the fuselage, so that they will be identifying whether any damage is there or not. So coming into the re-entry vehicle with non-winged configuration, right? So initially they will discuss about the concept of like having a missile type of concept, and then they came into the blunt body concept 1953, and in space capsule, when Russia has developed Soyuz capsule, they have found that Soyuz capsule will be like, and Apollo capsule will be there. So that type of capsules will be used to re-enter into Earth atmosphere. Not only Earth, any planets, they can be used in that. So in case of Apollo, they have used for moon mission, they have used Apollo, and Galileo probe is also there. This is one of the concept which is not a demonstrator, but design oriented. This is a conceptual design they have developed. Iconic. This is also a re-entry vehicle with non-winged configuration. So how they will be controlling into the Earth atmosphere when the vehicle re-entry vehicle is coming into the Earth, the rolling movement and other pitching up, pitching down movement can be controlled with the flaps. Not pitch up. Only the roll and yaw can be controlled with the flaps, which will be kept at the base of the vehicle, where they will be having 4 flaps. Okay? So it will be similarly acting the concept like how our elevator and other control surfaces will be working. So aero capturing is one of the important term in case of re-entry vehicle, right? So in case of re-entry, so there will be approaching orbit, right? So there will be orbital transfer. So the orbital transfer used to reduce the velocity of the spacecraft. When we are reducing the velocity of the spacecraft, we will be calling it as aero capture. So in the same case, we will be using aero capture in re-entry vehicle or probes, especially in probes. Like our ISRO is also launched the moon mission, right? In the last Vikram lander also, aero capture in the same way. So one of the important factor is ballistic factor. It is when I have told in the configurations, lift is equal to 0. When we are speaking about space capsules, the lift will be 0, and the ballistic factor will be given with respect to mass divided by area. That is nothing but if we are calculating in Newton by meter square, it will be a pressure. Okay. So these are the factors where they have given for each and every type of space capsules, like with RV non-wing configurations. And these are the dimensional factors. I don't have time to explain those things. And you can read out in the book also, so it will be very much clear over there. So by this dimensions, these are the tablograms which describes those parameters. So with these shapes and other factors, you can draw it in ANSYS or any other computational tools, and you can analyze that how those hypersonic shape of the vehicle will going to have the impact towards the lift and drag. So those are the configurations for Apollo and the ARD demonstrator. And this is the Soyuz capsule. So here the important factor is they will be having 3 different modules. First one module is orbital module, design module, and service module. Whereas the orbital module, which will be going to revolve around the here, design module is going to enter into the atmosphere, and service module is going to control the engines when it is revolving, and it will be having various sensors also, thermal sensors, sun sensor and earth sensors also will be placed over there. And another concept they have tried to develop is aero assisted flight experiment. So this is not yet demonstrated. This is still under the experimental factors. So Bicon shape is also the same, where the nose section will be having a blended shape. You can see over here, and it will be the control with the same concept as like a ship in the ocean. So it will be having a meta center, right? So for a small angle, right, the meta center will be the same over here. It will be having a meta center, and if there is a small deflection, the vehicle can be attain its stability on its own. So the alpha trim will be given with respect to the angle of symmetrical axis as well as the force. So these are the trim and stability factors which we have to see over here. So that's the final slide, and you can watch in our other videos, control and stability, in our channel. And we are also having event portals and job and internship portals also we have developed. And this is our official journal, international journal, which is open access. You can watch over there. And we are also having an online portal where you can learn courses, several courses. And for faculties, they can join as a coordinator for their respective university also. These are developed by under the Society of Aero, and only it is mainly focusing on aerospace activities only. So if you have any doubt or any queries, you can contact us of our. So I think, sir, I have taken too much of time, and I need to explain more also. But since we don't have time, I'm just finishing with that.
Thank you very much, Kishan sir. Thank you so much, and it was quite interesting. We had a huge, the audience. I mean, the webinar participants here. There are some questions which I think we can quickly take up. One of the question which I got is there any hypersonic missile?
Sir, actually, this is a good question, but it is still under development. Whereas North Korea is also saying that they are having, they have developed such type of missiles, but record that means news or corresponding record is not available. But still, they are developing. They are still under development. Whereas India has also tested, DRDO also tested hypersonic aircrafts. So they are under testing phase. And when we are speaking about missile, it can obtain it can obtain hypersonic easily. No issue in that.
Okay, and there's another question from the same participant here. BrahMos Indian missile. What is the maximum?
Indian missiles. So that's why I told you DRDO was testing.
No, he's mentioning about BrahMos. BrahMos. BrahMos.
It is a supersonic, but BrahMos is having the world's most fastest supersonic missile. So I didn't exactly know the number, but that is on 2018, like our BrahMos director, CEO, he has declared that that is the fastest supersonic. I'm only speaking about supersonic missile in the world. BrahMos.
Yeah, it's around 2.
Number.
Yeah, it's around 2.8 to 3, as I know it actually. I'm also from aerospace background, and thank you very much for this question. And there is one more question just now came. Sir, will SFDR be hypersonic? SFDR, I don't know exactly what is SFDR.
I am also not having if they are giving the full form of that, then we can understand what is that.
Okay, there is one more question. Is there any effort by Indian continent or India government to develop a scramjet? I mean, sorry, a hypersonic vehicle.
Yeah, yes. Shall I share another video for that?
Yeah, please tell me.
Yes, sure. This is I have taken in 2017 in ISRO's
Okay.
So whereas they demonstrated the space scramjet, this is purely Indian made. So the scramjet it was made by India to attain the hypersonic speed. So maybe it is a confidential. The document is not released yet, but surely India is working on that. And DRDO has already put hypersonic. They are working on particularly hypersonic.
Yeah, my information is actually I was involved in a small part of it at Hyderabad. Okay, sir. And it was in 2016. They actually had a small, demo vehicle, smaller version of it. And now in 2019, they have cleared the testing of it. It is named as HSDTV. HSDTV. That's a new one which DRDO is developing. Basically, they are looking it for a missile only, not for any other purpose.
Okay.
And there's another question here. What will happen to the shock wave at high Mach number?
That is one of the important factors, and I will be showing that same PPT again so that I will be explaining with that factor itself. Yes. That drag, what I'm speaking about shock wave, it is hitting the nose section, right? We have to make sure that it should not enter into the inlet. So the vehicle ram, it has to be designed in such a way that the shock wave generated in the nose, it should not be touching the inlet. There should not be any interaction between the two shock waves. So it will be leading to a disaster. Whereas many NASA has taken this without considering the interaction, but they have disaster also. When I have read it in a book.
Yeah, basically his question is what will happen to the shock wave at high Mach number. I think the answer maybe it comes closer to the body because of higher Mach number.
Yes,
that is the reason why you showed that it should not come closer to the intake of things. So otherwise, actually the entry itself will be destroyed. Yes, and now the question from the same person, actually the solid, it's called SFDR, means solid fuel ducted ramjet. So it is solid fuel ducted ramjet project of DRDO. They're asking me whether it's hypersonic or what.
I don't have ideas. I'm not working in the propulsion field. I'm just working in the design and hypersonic flight mechanics, like forces and movements only. I'm working on that. So I don't have the idea about that particular thing. If they are working on that, that will be great only. Yeah, my information is actually HSDTV is again the fuel this thing only with a scramjet. Okay, sir. Okay. And somebody has asked, China have hyper or what? No, it's a hypersonic they are not having, but they are having that. I have shown the video about ramjet combination. So that they are having as a special impact. They are having that type of engines development. They are having, but same as a record, there is no over such type of thing. So at present, there is no such announcements have come from them.
There's a last question which I would like to take up from here. There will be a low density flow, low density flight for the vehicle in the space.
Yes.
So how does it actually affect your design? That's the question they have asked.
That's when we are moving at the high speed, right? So then there is no like less density. So when we are speaking about this RAM, right? So the RAM is not only used for pitch up or pitch down, or it won't create that. It will be also increase the pressure due to the angle deflection, right? So it will be increasing the pressure. It will be decelerate the speed of the flow, and it will be increasing the pressure. So that will be used in the inlet. So that's why they have considered this type of structural design to increase the pressure. Since we are having low density at the particular 100-kilometer altitude, we are having low density. So this type of structural is considered in there.